Okay, so if you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, you probably know by now I kind of have a love-hate relationship with TWSBI pins. I think they're a great pin. They're not really something that I like writing with all that much, and I don't really know why. So why did I buy another TWSBI? Well, when I was at the gentleman stationer recently, for some reason this one caught my eye in the case, and it's the most non-TWSBI looking TWSBI I think there is. This is a TWSBI Precision, and this is the original one they released in the gunmetal. And they released a new version not that long ago in kind of a blue finish. But this one is more of my color scheme, the kind of grays, titanium-esque colors. So let's get this opened up and take a look. And I'm curious if this will kind of break my... I appreciate TWSBI for what they are, but they're not really my cup of tea status with TWSBI. But let's get this out of here. If I can get it out without making too much of a hassle. Okay, so kind of standard TWSBI packaging, and I'll kind of put this over here so you can see it a little bit better in the, I guess I should hold it this way, in the side camera. You can see it's the most non-TWSBI looking TWSBI. It's more of a look of a mechanical pencil with the kind of faceted sides and non-see-through body. And that's what I think drew me to it. My wife, she loves her TWSBIs. I have the couple that are part of my testing set of pins when I needed other nib sizes that were not extra fine to use because they're good pins. Now, I know in the past when they were first released, there were some cracking quality issues, and it seems like that's mostly been resolved. Now, there are occasional references you'll hear of people saying that they had TWSBIs that did have cracking, but it seems like the TWSBI support has been pretty good on getting that taken care of if you run into that. But with this being metal, we shouldn't have to deal with cracking or anything like that. So let's take a look. Now, you notice first off that a lot of TWSBIs come with like a little tool or a little oil and whatnot. None of that is needed with this pen. And I actually don't even know if this is a piston or if this is a cartridge converter. Because like I said, I saw it in the store, but because, just taking the cap off, I can see an ink window. I am going to assume this is a piston filler. Let's validate that theory. Yeah, so let me see if I can get this to show. If you look right in there, you can see the top of the piston at the end of the viewing window. So we will use a piston filling method for this. But before we get to that point of filling it, you can see right away that this just has a different look. Hold it up this way because, the different cameras pick up perspective a little bit differently. It's got the faceted sides. And if you do tighten it all the way down, the sides do line up. So you've got a good line up, but this was just a different look and it kind of drew me to it. My dad is an engineer. So growing up, I would always go sneak into his desk drawer and snag his 0.5 millimeter mechanical pencils and use those because I thought that was the coolest thing. And, this kind of reminds me of that look. A lot of the mechanical pencils do have a similar look to this. So I'll be interested to see how this fits into my writing rotation. But let's go ahead and get this inked up and do some writing. Now, I did get, as you can imagine, a standard extra fine nib on this. And, TWSBI has the steel nibs. Nice extra fine. I do like that they have it labeled with their own logo and everything. And then it does have the kind of standard red finial with the TWSBI logo. And then I do like this little detail. I don't think it's really got a purpose, but just the two little bands, the rings on the back cap, I like that. It's just a neat little, it counteracts the look of the pen and kind of adds a different look to it. So let me grab the ink and what we need to get this filled up. I'll be right back. We'll get it filled and do some writing. Okay, so I got my Pengineer 3D station, and kind of a neat thing I didn't really plan on, but I'll cut over to the side camera here, and you can see it actually on the back of the ink station. It has Pengineer 3D ink station, so you can see what it is. I hadn't even noticed that when I first unboxed it. I was so concentrated with the top and getting into putting it to use. And the ink I'm using today is one that I recently added. My wife and I completed the Lamy Crystal full set of 10 inks, and this is the Obsidian. I figured a black ink kind of matches well with this kind of gunmetal gray. There is the agate, that's the gray ink, but I just put that in a different pen, and I didn't want to have the same exact ink in two, so I decided black with the gunmetal, and it can always be cleaned out and re-inked later if I decide to use some more color. So if you're not familiar with the ink station, it just holds your bottle in place. And I'll put a link up to the live stream where I actually unboxed that, and I'll put a link to the Pengineer 3D in the video description. But with this being a piston filler, you just put it in there and twist up to get ink drawn in. Like to wipe on the bottle, and then you can see right around the edge there, it's got some ink on the section. So we're just going to wipe that off so it doesn't get on our hand. And I didn't read in advance to see if this is known for any kind of staining on that front grip, but normally if you wipe it off immediately, you're going to be okay. Now there is a little bit on there, so I'll probably, as soon as I'm done filming, just get a damp towel and wipe that a little bit more just to be sure it doesn't leave any kind of stain on there. But I think we got everything we need off the nib. So let me cap this for a moment so it doesn't start drying. Get the cap put back on this ink, and we'll get it set to the side and just do a little bit of a writing sample and see how this works in terms of holding the pen, because at Gentleman Stationer, Joe had one in the case that was out of the box that I could hold, but I did not get a chance to actually write with one of these. So I do want to see how it actually feels writing with it, as you can imagine. But I liked how it felt when I was holding it, so that's normally a good sign. So for paper today, what I decided to use is this is the Life bank paper, Life writing paper, bank paper. Was sending out some packages recently and kind of wrote a little note to go in there that I didn't need an envelope because they were going in boxes. And I really I use this for swatching, but I forget how well it shows the quality or the properties of some of the inks. So I've been kind of in a use more bank paper phase recently. And then it does come with the blotter sheet just to keep hand oils off, or, use to blot ink if it's drying, if you're doing a letter. So I did use it for that. But as you can tell, the blotting paper, the ink was drying pretty well because the paper looks like it has not been touched with ink. So this is the Lamy Precision. And then this is an extra fine. And this is Lamy. This is the, let me just start over there. How about the TWSBI Precision? In extra fine. And this is the Lamy Crystal Obsidian ink. That makes me think back, one of my earlier videos early on in the channel, I think it was actually my TWSBI 580 video. I wrote like Pelican 580 or something like that. And I had never noticed it in all the editing. Someone in the comments pointed it out to me, and I was like, man, it's right there in front of me. But I guess that's the little details like that. You have to think differently when doing some of this stuff on camera. But as you'd expect, steel nib, kind of a standard extra fine. You're not going to get really much flex or anything like that. But it does seem to have, the feed is keeping up. Everything's going good. And I do like this color of the black ink. Now, with any black ink for me, I'm going to compare it, even if I don't mean to Chaokuro, because that is, you know, the black pigmented ink. I don't believe this is pigmented. So it'll really depend on how this dries. But as I've been doing more prep and using, like I put the document ink in my Franklin Christoph with the Nagahara needlepoint grind, and I'll put a link to that video as well. I've been using more black lately and for different purposes. So I know that this will be one that'll be nice to just kind of keep on the desk, because this is, with being an all metal pen, a little bit more durable. So this might be one that ends up just staying in my bag, because that is one thing TWSBIs are known for, is they don't dry out very easily. So having an inked pen that you can kind of just leave in a bag as kind of a backup pen is not a bad thing. And if this stays sealed as well as some of the other TWSBIs, then this might fit that role. I'm not going to relegate it to that immediately, but it's always nice knowing that it could be that pen if that's just how things line up. Because I do like how this fits in my hand, and now this will post. And those little rings I mentioned earlier, they do kind of act to hold the cap on a little. But this feels really back heavy to me when I post it. So I can already tell that this is not going to be one that I will post. I've gotten to where I post my pins less and less lately, especially because a lot of the maker pins or the different materials, you don't necessarily want to scratch it. So, you know, the materials kind of led to, I've gotten to where I actually hold the cap in my offhand most of the time when writing now. I read something online that said, if you hold your cap in your left hand, you're not going to grip the pen as tightly. Is that provable? No. Do I think it does have some sort of semblance of being accurate? Possibly, because I do feel like I don't hold the pen as tight. So it's some sort of subconscious thing. But, you know, I do like this pen. It'll be, you know, nice to get it into the use. And I think it's small enough where it will just possibly fit into, and let me see if I can, actually I have it right here. I have my Bible size plotter just to show if this will fit in the loop. Oh yeah, and that actually fits in there really nicely. So this might become just a pin that kind of stays in there, because with it being metal, it slides in and out of the pen holder really nicely in the Bible size plotter. So it might have just found its new regular home. So that'll be fun part of the experiment of getting used to this pen going forward and just seeing overall how it behaves. So let me get the pad put aside, and we'll wrap this up. Just talking, you know, showing that this is a different type of TWSBI, and I do like the color. Everything looks great, and so far from a writing standpoint, it writes like I would expect. Great steel nibs coming from TWSBI, you know, cool design, just a unique look. Now it does kind of look like this cap could slide off. Don't know if it's meant to. You know, I'll have to play with that and see if it's meant to, because it looks kind of like on the mechanical pencils where you could choose whether or not the clip goes on there. I don't know if those little prongs go into the cap or not, but I'll look into that after the video. I don't want to potentially break a brand new pen, but I don't think I would take the clip off if it's possible, but it's always good to know that that's an option if that's something you're interested in. So do you have a Precision? Did you see the new one? Because I was intrigued by the blue ones, but I wasn't really set on getting one at the time until I saw the gunmetal one in person. That was what kind of triggered the, okay, I'll give it a shot for me. So let me know in the comments, do you have one of these Precisions? Do you have other TWSBIs? And does this change your view of TWSBI? To me, traditionally, TWSBI's always been clear body, maybe a colored cap. You know, they've started to do more and more, starting to do some materials with swirled colors and, you know, the onyx color for black hardware or rose gold and whatnot. But this just is a different look from all of them. And I believe this has only ever been released in the gunmetal and then the recently released blue. So let me know if you have one of these, or if you were curious about this after seeing it, if you've seen it in person or you're just now seeing it on the video. Is this a TWSBI that you might own if you've traditionally been more on the not the biggest TWSBI consumer or user? Let me know your thoughts on that. I'd love to hear it and kind of see as I start looking into seeing if this is going to be the TWSBI that turns the tides for me, or if this will end up moving along to a new home in the future if I end up not really using it all that much. If you're new to the channel, thanks for watching. Maybe click on like or subscribe if you liked what you saw. That would help the channel out. And until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.